All right, let's talk about building data projects that actually last. Today, we're digging into two of the most fundamental building blocks in dbt: sources and seeds. Getting these right is absolutely critical for managing your data and building trust in your work. So let's dive right in. So let me ask you a question and be honest. Is your data project kind of built on sand? I mean, do you have tons of models all pointing directly to raw tables in your warehouse? Because if you do, you are literally one table rename away from a complete and total disaster. And this right here, this is the classic anti-pattern we've all been guilty of at some point. Just hard-coding the full path to your raw tables. You know the drill. But what happens when someone decides to rename the raw schema or the JAFFLeshop database? Your entire project just implodes. It's so brittle, a nightmare to maintain, and trust me, it's a recipe for a very, very bad weekend.
So, how do we get out of this mess? Well, this is where dbt sources come in to save the day. This is dbt's elegant, strategic answer for managing all that raw data that's already sitting in your data warehouse.
So what exactly is a dbt source? Think of it like a stable address, a permanent pointer to your raw data. You're creating this logical layer, right? It separates your transformation code from the physical location of the data. It's like giving your data a permanent mailing address. So even if it moves houses, you always know where to find it.
And you can see the difference right here. Plain as day. On the left, you've got that fragile, hard-coded reference. On the right, you're using dbt's source function. It's beautiful. That first part, JAFFLeshop, that's the logical name of your source system. And the second part, orders, is just the table name. Now, if that raw table ever moves, you only have to update it in one single file. Everything else just keeps working.
And the best part? Setting this up is ridiculously simple. It's all done in a YAML file. You just give your source a logical name, like JAFFLeshop, and then you map it to its physical location, the actual database and schema. Then you list out the tables. That's it. It's so simple, but so incredibly powerful.
But here's the real magic. That simple source function does way more than just find your table. It's telling dbt, hey, this model depends on that raw table. And this is exactly how dbt automatically builds that beautiful, clear data lineage graph we all love. That lineage is everything when you need to debug something or just understand how your data flows.
Okay, but wait, there's more. Declaring sources unlocks another superpower, the ability to check on the health and timeliness of your data. Let's talk about source freshness.
Source freshness is basically an automated pulse check for your data. It answers that one critical question: is my raw data actually being updated like it's supposed to? This is so important because the last thing you want is for your stakeholders to be making big decisions based on old, stale information. And you're not going to believe how easy this is to set up. Seriously, it's just 3 steps. First, you tell dbt which column has the timestamp for when the data was loaded. Second, you set a warning threshold, say 12 hours. And third, you set an error threshold, like 24 hours. You're in complete control. And I really want to stress this. This is not just some nice-to-have feature. This is professional-grade data governance. Freshness checks are how you programmatically enforce your service-level agreements, your SLAs. This is how you build and maintain trust with everyone who uses your data. So visually, it's like setting up guardrails. You're saying, if the newest record in this table is more than 12 hours old, give me a warning. And if it's more than 24 hours old, that's an error. That dbt source freshness command will actually fail, which is great. It immediately tells you something is broken upstream and stops stale data dead in its tracks. Okay, so sources are amazing for data that's already in your warehouse. But what about those small static lookup files? You know, like mapping tables. For that, we turn to our other hero, dbt seeds. So a dbt seed is, at its heart, just a CSV file, a simple CSV that you put right inside your dbt project. When you run the dbt seed command, dbt grabs that file and loads it into your warehouse as a new table. Now here's the big deal. That data, that business logic, is now version controlled in Git, right alongside all your SQL models. This is the perfect example, a simple mapping of country codes to their full names. This kind of reference data is absolutely ideal for a seed file. Why? Because it's small, it doesn't change very often, and it's critical business logic that you definitely want to keep under version control. So when should you reach for a seed? Well, think about these scenarios.
mapping files, lists of test emails you want to exclude from your analysis, maybe employee account IDs, or even holiday calendars. Small, static, business-specific stuff. That's the sweet spot.
Now, just as important is knowing when not to use seeds. And this is a common trap, so listen up. Do not use seeds to load massive CSV exports from a production database. It's not built for that, it won't perform well, and you should never ever be storing large amounts of production data, especially sensitive PII, in your Git repository. That's a huge security risk.
Okay, here's a question I get all the time. You've got a seed file, it's working great, but now you need to add a new column to the CSV. If you just run dbt seed again, you're going to get an error. Why? Because by default, dbt just tries to empty the existing table and load new data in. It doesn't try to change the table's structure. The solution is this simple little flag, -full refresh. This tells dbt, hey, just tear down the old table completely and build me a brand new one based on this updated CSV file. Problem solved. You're back in business.
So let's bring it all together now. Sources and seeds. These are not competing ideas. They are two complementary tools that work together to form the rock-solid foundation of any trustworthy dbt project.
If you remember one thing from this explainer, let it be this. Use sources to manage the raw data that your ELT tool has already loaded into the warehouse. And use seeds to manage those small static reference files that live with your dbt project and version control. So to wrap it all up, sources give you that crucial abstraction layer and data lineage. Source freshness gives you pipeline health monitoring and lets you enforce your SLAs. And seeds gives you version control for all your important reference data. When you put them all together, you create a truly reliable, testable, and well-documented foundation for everything else you build.
By mastering these two fundamental concepts, you've built a trustworthy, documented, and testable entry point for all the data that flows into your transformation layer. You've set the foundation. The only question left is, what amazing things are you going to build on top of it?